Our next speaker is Myles Clarke. He was in the RAF for 7 years and then 15 years in the RAAF as an armament officer. Myles founded Talon Zulu, which is focusing on rapid capability for defence. Today he will be speaking on the military additive manufacturing experience.
In the last 12 hours, a super typhoon has made landfall in an Asia-Pacific country. It's tracked across the province and has exited in the South China Sea, leaving devastation in its wake. 380,000 people have been displaced. 300,000 are still missing. It is estimated 1.5 million houses have been destroyed. The affected nation has requested Australian support for assessment and recovery. There is limited access across the entire of the island, and the assessment and the triaging of the affected area's infrastructure is required at a quick pace to ensure the resources are allocated appropriately. This was a recent event that KZNX based its most recent rapid capability design sprint on in February 2022, designated MAX. MAX, or Military Additive Manufacturing Experience, was created as the first step to realizing Dr. Layton's vision in his paper, Prototype Warfare in the Fourth Industrial Age. Not to you, Chris, thanks for mentioning it. Who here has actually read that paper? It's very bright. There are a few hands out there, outstanding. If you haven't, I highly recommend you read that paper. You can find it on the Air and Space web pages on that side. Download it, have a read. It provides you a lot more context and detail to what I obviously can cover right now. But it's the lighthouse by which KZNX has an NX03, where we work, has been guided over the last few months. So what did MAX prove? That Industry 4.0 is now, not in 10 years' time, and has the potential to transform the face of defense. We have access to the technology. We have access to the people. We must continue to build the frameworks and the processes to enable us to fully utilize this game-changing capability. So, what is MAX? Well, under MAX, KZNX formed a rapid capability office, which we've seen in some of our coalition partners, a concept that delivers defense capabilities at the speed of an emerging threat or needs. This is achieved by expediting the development and fielding of the new capabilities, drawing on defense-wide assets, leveraging leading-edge technologies and agile processes to deliver the operational effect at which it is demanded. In KZNX, we formed a core team under MAX, which consisted of KZNX, DSTG, industry, and the OEM in this case is Free Space Operations, academia with the University of South Australia and the Industry 4.0 test labs, and Air Force. As mentioned by Alice earlier on, we utilized a virtual tradesman. From this one, it was 92ing. It was a technician there who had skill sets in additive manufacturing and design. On top of this, we also had stakeholders who were observers of the entire process. We had Log Branch Air Force, obviously looking at the virtual trades, Land Systems Prototype Office, Air Force Headquarters in Jericho, ISREW SPO, and Navy Innovation. So a true mix of personnel. MAX consisted of a 5-day rapid capability design sprint. It's focused on the collaborative problem solving, design, manufacture, test, and delivery of a system to be able to achieve the operational effect. Now, the methodology we use here is a mixture from design thinking to double diamond to hacking for defense, depending on what the situation is. And it's really sitting around the complexity of the system you're trying to design, the time, and the quality that's needed. So day one saw the start of the bringing in of the end user and an in-brief provided to the team, which provided the operational effect required and the context. Importantly, though, throughout this, we had the end user involved from day 1 to day 5 as part of that core team. And that's the prosumer, which Mike was talking about earlier on. In the first day, we're very much focused on those who are design thinking people in here, focused on the empathize, define, and some of the ideation stages. So we looked at defining the minimum required to achieve that effect. By mid-afternoon, we were starting debating possible solutions, with a selection which we decided to choose the DSCG's drone swarming research, which is under the Starshots scheme of operating in a contested environment. This would see the launch and recovery of the X-8 Skywalker drones, with a camera capability fitted to form the swarms of drones of around about 3 to 6. This would cover a large area rapidly and at a low cost. The challenge, however, was maximizing the range of these drones. Both for takeoff and ascending to altitude consumes a vast amount of batteries. So how to reduce this consumption? The solution was the use of the Callisto drone, which you can see pictured here. DSG's recently purchased heavy lift drone. Using a heavy lift as a mothership, we attach 3 6/8s, take it to altitude as quickly as possible, and the release to form a holding pattern before the Callisto returns to pick up additional X-8s. The intention is to fill the air, basically, with as many drones as we can before deploying them off on their own separate mission sets. So day 2 saw the design and design development, with the focus on how we actually attach the X-8 and the Callistos. Bear in mind now that the X-8s are 2.2 meters in wingspan, so they're a reasonable sized drone. We whittled it down to 2 different proposals, one being underslung, and the other one being a direct attachment to the Callisto drone. When we started examining the underslung side of things, the control risks were the main concern. And Callisto, we didn't actually have any problem with. They would be able to recover it. But the amount of battery consumed by the Callisto to achieve this made it a prohibitive solution. So we decided to go for the direct attachment. So by midday, and this is midday on the second day, the first designs were going to print. Now, CasGNX has set up an additive manufacturing 3D printing partnership network beforehand, which consisted of CasGNX printers and scanners, which were actually cleared by CIOG. No laugh. DSCGs, and there are 2 facilities there. So we had 20 printers of varying different materials that we could utilize. And University of South Australia's Industry 4.0's printers, which is another 10 3D printers. Day 3, when we started to talk about all those printers, pretty much when we started printing on the second day, those printers kept on printing 24 hours a day, with some of them up to 6 printers using at any one point in time, all the way through this design sprint. So by day 3, we saw the OEM propose a solution. So Free Space Operations, the manufacturers of the Callisto, proposed a solution, which was both welcome and somewhat unexpected. The core team assessed that, and it was actually finally dismissed by the end user with regards to some design concerns, but in particular the time we had remaining on the sprint. The design continued to iterate. We looked at simplifying the release mechanisms, and of course putting in some leg extensions so we could support the drone. But with that started the problems. The prop wash from the Callisto and the impact on those wingspans that I was talking to on the X-8s. The recovery height required from the X-8s after release from the Callisto itself. The RF noises, 3 drones and a Callisto all operating within a very small space. And then operator training, programming systems, material failures. This is all part of the design process. You just need to work out a way. By day 5, and some very long nights, CAS-GNX had manufactured, assembled, wired, and had ready for ground testing 3 X8s. This saw the release, the successful ground testing of the 3 X8s was successfully achieved on Friday. But what about the flight testing? Would Callisto prove to be a stable enough platform? Would the X8 separate successfully and be able to recover autonomously before hitting the ground? Now, I'm not here to paint a false facade of what actually happened, or some kind of propaganda on that side. The first X8s we actually released speared straight into the ground. It was actually, the separation was fine, the manual recovery was also fine, but it's actually the autonomous aspect which caused a problem because of the orientation of the actual drone itself. But this is the point. You learn through doing. The X8s are expendable, low-cost items, and it was a measured and accepted risk right from the very start. The key through all of Max is for us to continually learn. Find out new ways, new processes, new partnerships. It's so important to CAS-GNX that we actually had a dedicated observer throughout this. He made over 50 observations, both positive and for lessons learned. And don't worry, I'm not going to go through all 50 here. You can read that later. But the important thing is that those lessons learned then get fed back into the design sprint. I like to think of it like a flywheel, I suppose. You're reducing that friction to gain the momentum to get faster, to turn that wheel faster. And we all know about that with regards to OODA loops and trying to get within the decision cycle on that side. So for our future design sprints, we recognized that 3D printing, for example, and the capacity thereof, we needed to find additional partners. So how did the RCO response unfold? Well, the RCO requested a C-17 be utilized and the Callisto and 20 X8s be loaded from the DSTG stock. A 20-foot container for a 3D printer and scanners, and of course the technical crews, operators, and some GIAs to be able to turn the imagery as well would also be included as part of the deployment. Now, this is a brand new capability that was designed, manufactured, tested, and would have been deployed in under 6 days. But, of course, Callisto is just a surrogate. If you start looking at the high-end warfighting aspect, and you take away Callisto, and you potentially mount it, use the same racking system, and you mount it or palletize it, and put it onto the back of a C-17 with 20 or 30 X8s. Now you release those over a contested area. What kind of effect would that have? Now, the prototype that we put together was also taken by DSTG and is now enhanced the Starshot program with regards to being able to fill the airs with as many drones as they possibly want. But as part of that stakeholder group which I mentioned, we also have been approached now by Navy and to some degree Air Force to explore how we can get this particular capability to the frontline end users. Ladies and gentlemen, Industry 4.0 is now, not in 10 years. It is the key to unlocking Australian capacity to produce sovereign capability at both speed and scale. With defense providing industry the signal to grow. This technology has the ability to counter supply chain vulnerabilities, be it from natural causes or adversary action, as so starkly demonstrated in most recent events, be it COVID or Ukraine. But it's more than that, though. It enables us to deliver future high-end warfighting capability effects, not in months or years, as it is currently, but in days. As a famous philosopher, Yoda, once said, the future is always moving. The question is, are we moving fast enough? Thank you very much.
thank you for that really interesting presentation. Unfortunately, because you had so much content, you have a really short period for questions, so I'm going to ask my question. Did you have an ethicist as a part of the MAX exercise, someone to raise ethical concerns early rather than at the end?
Fascinating. And no, we did not. But to be honest, as an engineer, I didn't even consider that aspect to it.
Yeah, most people don't.
No, that's a very good point.
Let's have a chat offline about how I can help you with people that might be able to do that.
But this is the key, I think, to having that diversity in your team. Because, and I, from my previous tours, I used to have a medical warrant officer working in a highly technical area. And it was fantastic to have her opinion, where she brought a completely different mindset with regards to talking about relating it to the body and how we actually medically treated items. It was a completely different mindset. So having a diverse team is all part of it. So I appreciate the pointer on that.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.